Are you satisfied with the image you've established?
Well, the image is one thing, and a human being is another. You know, it's very hard to live up to an image, I'll put it that way.
Elvis Presley was one of the most memorable entertainment figures of the 20th century. Although his legend grew fast and furiously, sadly, he wasn't with us long enough. Now, for the very first time, we've compiled never-before-seen concert footage from 1970. Home movies, candid photos, and exclusive interviews with his rhythm guitarist, John Wilkinson.
You didn't even have to see Elvis walk in the room to feel that he was in the room.
His backup singer and lover, Kathy Westmoreland.
Our relationship was on again, off again, on again, off again, but we remained friends.
And Sandy Miller, the girl who started out as Elvis's fan but became his friend and photographer.
He always looked like $1,000,000. I don't think anybody could dress the way he did and pull it off.
In 1969, after years of making movies in Hollywood, the success of the '68 comeback special convinced Elvis that it was time to return to the thing he loved the most, performing live in concert for his fans. He chose the largest hotel in the world, the International Hotel in Las Vegas, signing for an unheard of sum of $125,000 per week. The opening engagement in 1969 was completely sold out. Critics and fans alike proclaimed him once again the king of rock and roll. In the summer of 1970, he kicked off his nationwide tour, appearing at the Houston Astrodome, performing 6 shows before a record-setting audience of more than 207,000 people. At his Houston press conference, he discussed for the first time his reasons for going back on the road.
You were available to the public only in films.
Yeah.
For a long period of time.
Well, I think the most important thing is the inspiration that I got from a live audience. I was missing that.
Get ready to hear fascinating, outrageous, and touching stories from the people who lived behind the legend. Most of all, be prepared to discover the man behind the image.
One afternoon, Friday afternoon, I remember clearly, I received a call from a man by the name of Hugh Jarrett, who was one of the original Jordanaires. And he asked if it was possible for me to come and just replace Millie Kirkham for 2 weeks with the Elvis Presley show. And I was shocked. Elvis Presley. I was a classical singer at that time. Going, how in the world could Elvis ever, what does he do now, number one, was my question. And then how could he use my voice, a classical voice, in his show? I trust in God. I had no idea, really. I knew that he had made a comeback, but I had no idea what type of a show he did. And I went to meet with Hugh, discussed it with him, and we made plans. I spoke with Tom Diskin. We made plans that Friday for me to fly in on Sunday and begin work on Monday. Flew in, and that was the beginning of what I thought was going to be 2 weeks, turned into 7 years. The first night that I performed with Elvis, Felton took me downstairs to watch 2 performances, then I was going to go on. That was it. I was sitting downstairs by myself at the elevator. It was the International Hotel at that time, and Elvis got off the elevator. I didn't recognize him at all. He was dressed in a black leather jacket, brown slacks, a brown shirt. His hair was messed and he had glasses on. I couldn't see his eyes. And Felton says, "Kathy, this is Elvis. Elvis, this is Kathy, your new soprano." And my first impression was he looked like a biker. Really rather thuggish. But when I went out and sat in the sound booth with Felton, this tremendous transformation took place. And this man came out on stage. I was stunned by the charisma. I had worked at that point with over 100 artists, and I never had seen a star with so much electrical magnetism, charisma, whatever it is, that unnameable thing that every star has some of, and he had 1,000 times packaged somewhere within it. The first night that I performed with Elvis, he came to my dressing room prior to the show. And having worked with many artists, I'd never had that happen before. Most of them you didn't even meet. Backup artists just didn't. He came backstage and said, I want you to go out, don't worry about a thing, go out and just have fun. That's what we're about. He said, have a good time, enjoy the music, enjoy the show, but when I point at you, you better sing something, kiddo. And sure enough, that night, he pointed at me. It was a song that, of course, was not in the lineup. There was a list. The song was nowhere on the list, and it was time for me to sing a solo, so I had to just ad-lib something. Fortunately, I had a good ear. That's what saved me. And after that performance, he actually came back and complimented me on having been able to wing it with it. That's what he really wanted, was the spontaneity in his shows. It's one thing to work with people, but it's another thing to get to know them. And I, like I said before, I'd worked with many artists and rarely got to know them, just except for hello. I had been told by Millie Kirkham, who had preceded me, that if you ever get a chance to go up to the suite, make sure you go up because it's like a movie set up there and you need to see it. One night, Sonny West came down and said, Elvis would like for you to come up tonight after the show and just he'd like to get to know you as a friend. I'd love for you to come up to the party. So I said, all right. Went up expecting to be a part of, just a large group, and there were about 30 people there. And I was sitting on the couch and observing the suite. It was gorgeous, just beautiful at the time, and waiting for him to come in. Everybody was anticipating his arrival. And he walked in the room just looking stunning. He looked like a prince. And he walked over and sat directly next to me, which shocked me. And there were all these gorgeous, gorgeous women there, and I was really stunned when he put his arm around me. And I then realized that, I didn't really realize, but I was thinking, am I his date? What is this? And I knew he was married. And he said, don't get nervous, I want to get to know you as a friend. So that began a friendship. It really did. We had so much in common at the time. He was an avid reader. We had read many of the same books, and it was very hard for me to I found another person who had some of the same interests as I did. And I got to see it. I learned that he was a very sensitive, warm person who was interested in discovering the truth. He was on a search for the truth, and our friendship developed that way. At the Forum in Los Angeles in 1970, everybody thought that it was impossible for him to have sold out one show, much less two. The tickets sold in 10 minutes. And he was positive also that it would cost him money. It cost $30,000 at the time to rent the theater the auditorium for one show. He not only made money, but broke all of the records. He had a fabulous suit that was designed especially for this performance. Long fringe. I went to the ground almost, and he became tangled in it. It had to be, Charlie actually cut him out of it in the middle of one of the songs. It was this gorgeous, but he was never able to wear it again because it just didn't think about when he moved how it would just entangle him. He was just wrapped up like a mummy. When we got to Oklahoma City, we went out to the living room and went to sit in front of the window and watched outside. We could see the auditorium, and people were lined up. And he said, "Look at those people. They're getting ready to come see me." And he said, "They'll come from miles around to see a freak." There's something that it's difficult for me to talk about, but in order for me to explain how I grew to know him personally, I will discuss it. We had a personal relationship. As I worked with him for a while and we became friends first, I noticed, of course, that his relationship with his wife was falling apart, and he relied on me and confided in me, of course, and others. But we grew to have a more intimate relationship. He was very patient, didn't rush me. It was my first intimate relationship with him. and at quite a late age, I might add, in today's standards. But he was very, almost motherly towards me, a side of a man that's you wouldn't expect from the king of rock and roll. Never rushed me. He was very, very patient and just sweet, gentle, kind, and cared more about just being with me than anything else. During this time, I was going through tremendous guilt. I had guilty feelings. He was a close friend. I know this sounds strange to millions of women all over the world, but he wasn't my type. Everybody has their type. He really wasn't my type. And I don't think I was his either. But the friendship, out of the friendship, and out of a close friendship, very often an intimacy grows. And that's what happened. When I first went up to his suite, he sat me down and told me that he and his wife were living separate lives. So I remember he leaned over and kissed me, and I crossed my eyes, and he became offended and said, you'll see, I really do care about you. And he actually walked me to my room alone, without bodyguards, and many times would come to my door, knock on it just to check to see how I was, and without anyone knowing that he had left. There were very often he would go places in those days without anyone knowing that he had slipped off. Then when we had our differences, I mean, the incident where I quit and was gone for a month, and then rehiring, and our relationship was on again, off again, on again, off again. But we remained friends. He had the ability to mend a friendship and keep it together. It was important to him that you were loyal to him, of course, but he was a loyal friend. No matter what happened, if you were his friend, no matter what happened, he was there for you. I remember his feelings would get hurt very easily, which was normal. He was human. One time, the television set across the room was really loud, and he said, Charlie, could you turn the he asked very nicely. He didn't say, turn the TV down. Charlie, could you turn the television set down? I can't hear. And a girl sitting right in front of him said, why don't you do it yourself? And it hurt him. And I remember reaching over and patting him on the back and saying, she just wants your attention. I don't know how I realized it, but I did. And that was what he said, you know, you calmed me down and made me realize that's what it was. A lot of people, he said after that, he told me that a lot of people did things like that to him often, but he didn't understand why. And I think that was it. They wanted attention, but didn't know exactly how to get it. And he had every reason to get upset. In fact, it took him too long to get angry. And then when he did, he would blow. And he wouldn't take it out directly on that person, but more out on himself, or a wall, or a television set. But somebody wasn't doing their job. That basically was it. If somebody was being paid to do a job and they were off chasing girls or the groupies or whatever, you know, he'd yell and scream, what your job is to take care of this or take care of that, and why aren't you doing it? There were many, many funny moments on stage. And one I remember and recall, a man's toupee had fallen off right in the middle of Are You Lonesome Tonight, and it tickled him. And he made up, Elvis was very witty, and he made up lyrics. He'd be a great rap artist today. He made up lyrics instantly, and the man losing his hair. In the early years in Vegas, he did a phenomenal version of You've Lost That Lovin' Feeling. It was awesome, this huge orchestra. He even had a gong player. When it started out, the first gong was very small. Anyway, he would turn us back to the audience, and then he got the idea one night to turn around with a gorilla mask on when the spotlight came up. And it was very cute. At the end of that song, there was a little Asian man, very tiny, who hit a gong. Well, the gong got larger and larger each night, until one night there was one that, the circumference, I mean, it was huge. It was larger than my arm span. On the night that they finally had a gong that would really add drama to the number, which it deserved, the little Asian man who had this adorable, beautiful hair and a little bowl haircut, it was really cute, hit this gong, and the vibration of the large gong, not having rehearsed at all, we had no idea what was going to happen. He hit the gong, and the vibration actually blew him off down into the orchestra pit. And we lost it for a long time. Elvis couldn't, it was hard for him to recover. One afternoon we were sunning on the roof of the International. We were talking about how each of us had been raised in the church. We were talking about music. And he mentioned, he said, you know, the only record that I ever received a Grammy for was a gospel record called How Great Thou Art. And he said, do you know the song? I said, of course. And we started singing it out there. He said, I'm going to put it in the show tonight. Everybody said, no, you can't do a gospel song in Vegas or in a rock and roll concert. You can't put a song like that in your show. He did it anyway, and it got a standing ovation and actually brought the show to a halt. It was fantastic. He knew that he was going to die. He told me when I first met him that he was going to die when he was 42. And he wanted to perform until the last moment. Well, near the end of his life, we were in Baltimore, and he knew his time was up, and he asked me just out of the blue, he says, Kathy, what's it all about? And I said, what, life, or what do you mean? He said, no, what is it all about? And I said, I think that's for you to discover yourself. And he laughed, and he said, that's exactly the answer I would have given you. Then he said, how are people going to remember me? They're not going to remember me. He looked despondent then. I've never done anything lasting. I've never done a classic film. I haven't written my book. He wanted to write a book called Through My Eyes. And I made a huge mistake and said, I think you've already done it. Don't worry, you've already done it. And it made him more despondent. And then I said, but there's always a new goal. There's always a new goal, real quick to try to recover. And he said, yes. And I said, you know, you could produce, you could. He said, yes, I could do it. He wanted to produce a movie on karate. And there's not enough awareness about that yet. And he said, I could go ahead and start writing the book. But it flabbergasted me, and still does to this day, to think that he really didn't realize that he had made an impact on the world, changed us socially, culturally, musically, the revolution without a shot being fired that was caused around the world. That he was the one chosen to do it in some way. It happened to be him. I think that he should be remembered for being the greatest interpreter of song. And he was an American folk music genius, really. And for making people happy. He made us forget our problems. I think that he would have wanted people to realize that, as he had said, when I'm cut, I bleed. People don't really realize that they can hurt me by what they say or do, and they can hurt me by hurting my family or friends. I think one of Elvis's greatest qualities was his ability to forgive. He really practiced what a lot of people say they're supposed to do but can't do it. He was the most forgiving person. A person could do harm to him, and I don't care what they did, he would forgive them. He loved them anyway, unconditionally, in spite of what happened.
For the last 9.5 years of Elvis Presley's life, I was his rhythm guitar player, but more importantly, I was his friend. My family, my mother and father, bless their hearts, were very conservative, down-home country gay kind of people. They had seen Elvis too on TV. They'd heard his records, and they thought, this is not a good role model for Johnny. You know what I mean? I thought, hey, I think he's a great role model. And I rode my bicycle down there and walked up the stairs to where the old dressing rooms were. So I walked down the hallway, and I'm looking at all these dressing rooms. In this open door, there he is. So I knock on the door, and he looks up and said, hi, and I said, hi. I said, I'm John Wilkinson. He said, I'm Elvis Presley. I said, yeah, I know that, I'm pretty sure. He said, come on in. Now this is at a time, he was just a kid. He's 10 years older than me, but he's just a kid. So he shakes my hand and says, sit down. I said, okay. He said, and he started asking me, do I live here in town? What about my family? My mother and father alive? What did they do? Do I go to school? This kind of thing. He was genuinely interested. And I didn't really know what to say to him, except I thought he was a pretty nice guy, and he was. He was a gentleman. And at one point after he had asked me all these questions, I said, you know what, Elvis, I got to tell you something, man. You can't play guitar with a damn. And he said, oh, you think you can play better than me? I said, I know I can. And there was a guitar, an old acoustic guitar, leaning up against the wall of this dressing room where he was. And I said, can I borrow your guitar there for a minute? He said, sure. So I walked over there and grabbed this guitar and whipped out a set of finger picks that I always carried with me. And I did a little bluegrass picking on the guitar for him, a little Foggy Mountain breakdown, which is not an easy thing to do on guitar. But I did it anyway, and I sang him a couple of songs. And when I finished, he said, you're pretty good. And I said, yeah, I know. Right then, at that moment, when I put the guitar down, I heard these footsteps coming down the hall, and there's Colonel. And he looks in there and he said, who are you? What are you doing here? And Elvis stood up and said, Colonel, take it easy. This is a friend of mine. This is John Wilkinson. He lives here in town. He just plays some fantastic guitar for me. I said, thank you, Elvis, appreciate that. He said, well, you got to get out. The Colonel said, you got to get out of here. He's got to rehearse. You're bothering him. Get out of here. Okay, fine, I'll leave, So I got up to leave, and as I was walking out the door, Elvis turned to me and he said, hey, John. I said, yes. And he shook my hand again. He said, I know we're going to meet again. I just know it. He said, thanks for the guitar lesson. I said, okay, you're welcome. Didn't see him again until about 1964. But this was at a time out there when he could go out to clubs, and he did occasionally go out to the Whiskey A Go-Go and some of the other places to see other acts. I had been called by the manager of the Whiskey A Go-Go. He called me at home and said, do you think you could be opening act for Jefferson Airplane? So I called my guys, and they all got there. And I walked in through the front door of the Whiskey, and the place is pretty dark, you know how clubs are. So we did our opening show, and right when I was changing back into my civvies, this huge form filled the dressing room door. He said, there's a man what wants to see you right now. I'm going, yes, sir. Can I finish putting on my shirt and take my guitar and put it in the car? He said, I'll take care of that for you. Where's your car keys? Here. Flipped them. He said, I'll be back. He took my guitar, put it in the car, came back, gave me my car keys. He said, let's go. So I followed this huge man out, and there's Elvis. He looks up and he says, hi, Johnny, how are you doing? I said, hi, Elvis, nice to see you again. He said, how old were you when I first met you? I said, 9 years old, sir. He said, yeah, I remember you told me I couldn't play guitar with a damn. I said, well, you couldn't. I just wonder, can you now? He said, no, not really. He said, what are you doing tonight? I said, all my guys got dates. I couldn't buy a date that night. He said, why don't you got a car here, right? And I said, yeah. He said, give your car keys to Charlie, and you come with me. We're going up to the house. We're just gonna sit around and sing and pick and have something to eat. How about that? I said, that'd be fine. Sure, I'll go with you. Well, the point of this is that it was 3 days later that I got home. 3 days later. Before I left, he said, I know I'm going to see you again, John. He said, you told me that when I was 9 years old, and Lord and behold, we see each other again, shook hands, and left. And I didn't see him again until, end of 67, I guess. And at that time, he had decided that he was going to quit doing some of those movies if he could. He had said, even when we were rehearsing, not rehearsing, but just singing songs, how much he missed being on stage, that he owed it to his fans who put him there in the first place, that he should go back on stage and start doing that again. And I got a phone call. Elvis gets on the phone. He says, John, I'll send a car for you. And he was talking about how he wanted to put a band together, a good traveling band. He wanted to go on the road again. He owed it to his fans. Because you see, that's what he was put on this earth for, was to sing for people. And at the end of that, it didn't take 3 days this time, it was just overnight, not bad. At the end of that, shook his hand and said, I sure had fun, Elvis. And he said, I would like for you to be my rhythm guitar player in the band. What am I going to say? No, I don't want to work for you, Elvis. I said, absolutely. He said, I will pay you X amount of dollars, and you play rhythm guitar for me with that good finger picking stuff that you did. And he held out his hand, and he said, here's my contract. I said, good enough with me. Between him and Charlie Hodge, and some of us, we helped him pick some songs that we thought maybe he'd like. And he'd disappear for days in his house and listen to these demos and records just over and over and over again. And then a rehearsal would be called, and he'd come in, you know, all excited and say, fellas, I've decided I'd like to do this, and this song in the show. What do you think? Sure, boss, what do you say? Let's play them. I guess the thing that surprised me most about Elvis, after I really got to know him pretty well, and we've been on tour for a while, I guess would be his staying power, how he could go on night after night and still generate this amazing charisma and electricity on stage, and how he could have that enormous energy that he put out on stage night after night doing this kind of thing, and never once faltered. One night when Elvis was singing on stage in one of the venues, some fellas from, I guess it was 3 of them, from an opposing karate school, from Ed Parker's karate school, decided they were going to see just how tough Elvis was. They were going to see how far they could stretch Presley. And they jumped up on the stage. Now this is a bad thing. Elvis saw him, but before he saw him, the bodyguards, Elvis's bodyguards saw him and started trying to push him back. Well, they started swinging and kicking and trying to do all this karate stuff. And Elvis decided he's going to defend himself too, so he goes over and he clipped a couple of them. People don't realize that Elvis was a very complex man. He had a lot of different interests in music, in religion, in politics. You could talk to him about anything, and he had an idea about it. And I remember one time I asked him, let's go to Europe and do a European tour. You know, your fans over there love you. Wouldn't that be cool if we could do that? And he teared up a little bit. He said, I'd love to go over there and perform, but I can't. Well, why not, Elvis? He said, Colonel won't let me, because they only have outdoor performance venues. He said, there's no way to secure them. And I remember telling him, BS, man. We'll get the whole army of whatever country you were playing in. They'll come and protect you. Don't have to worry about it. He said, Colonel won't let me do it. Elvis had a very perverse sense of humor sometimes. I remember a particular time in Las Vegas, somebody bought water pistols, and they were having water fights up in the suite and up and down the hallways all afternoon long. They were playing cowboys and Indians or cops and robbers, I don't know. But that night, that particular night, the music goes up, the curtain goes up, and here out walks Elvis. So he walks out there past the guys and the girls, singers, and he looks right at me. And he holds this thing up. I've got an electric guitar. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to know what water and electricity do. And he pulls the trigger on the damn thing. Shot me right in the middle of the guitar. And there was a set of sparks went between my finger picks and the strings. You could see it like a little heart, a blue heart. And it shocked me. When we played the Forum in Los Angeles in 1970, Elvis had a special suit built for the occasion because he hadn't played in Los Angeles in many, many years. So he had this suit built, and it was fringed from top to bottom. It hung from his arms down to the floor, from his waist down to the floor. It was a beautiful suit, absolutely gorgeous suit. We hadn't seen it until he walked out on stage. And we're all amazed. We're doing the opening vamp, and here he comes out in his radiant glory in this beautiful fringe suit. So he's singing, and he's moving around with the microphone, and it's a recorded microphone. It didn't have wireless mics then. And this fringe starts getting tied up in the microphone cable. So he's finishing the song, and he can't finish the song because the microphone is all bound up. So Charlie Hodge, over on the right-hand side of the stage, somehow got some picking shears, I think, or garden shears, I don't know. And he came back out there and he cut this fringe off of the microphone cable so that Elvis could finish the song. It wrecked the suit pretty severely. Mostly, Elvis was a happy-go-lucky, up-tempo kind of guy all the time. But there were moments when he was just as human as anybody else, and he had his down times too. I remember a time just be him and me, nobody else around, no girlfriends, no bodyguards, no cooks, nobody hanging on, just me and him sitting and talking. And he was talking about his daughter, Lisa, and how much he missed not having her around all the time. He really loved that girl. And he began to cry. And he tried to stop, you know, because he felt like he was being embarrassed. It was embarrassing to him. And I remember telling him, there's nothing to be embarrassed about. There's no shame in crying, man. If somebody told you that men don't cry, you're wrong. Come here. And I remember grabbing him and putting his head on my shoulder and saying, it's okay, man. It's all right, cry, let it out. You're human. I mean, you really are. I know people won't let you be human sometimes. You're something special. You're bigger than life.
As a young girl, I always had the feeling that I would meet Elvis one day. And when I was in high school, I had a pen pal who lived in California. And she invited me to come out and visit her in California. And she was a big Elvis fan also. And she said, do you want to go up and see where Elvis lives? And we're like, yes, definitely. So her mother would take us up to his home in Bel Air. And this is the first time I ever saw him. He drove by in a black Rolls Royce, I think it was, and it was that quick. And I just remember his blue eyes and a smile. And he just zipped by, gates closed, he went in the house, that was it. And prior to this, I had always said, all I want to ever do is meet him. I just want to see him. If I see him, I'll be happy. I want nothing more. I saw him, I wanted to meet him. I want more. We just would see him coming back and forth from the studio. But that was it, I was hooked. With Elvis, the thing that impressed me the most was he gave everyone his personal attention. He made everyone feel special. He went around and actually waited on people. He'd ask you, would you like something to drink? And it just wasn't the type of thing you expected Elvis Presley to be doing in his own house, especially. But he took time to talk to everyone. And you got the impression that the questions he was asking you, he really wanted to know. Where are you from? What's your name? What do you do? And obviously it did mean something to him because he could remember these things 2 years later. Going down to his home, like say in Palm Springs, as far as what went on, there were usually half a dozen or so people there besides the people that Elvis employed. There were, other girls and things, and he always looked like $1 million. I don't think anybody could dress the way he did and pull it off. I mean, he had some wild outfits, but he could carry it. I took photos at almost every house that I had the privilege of spending any time in, with the exception of Graceland. I did get to go to Graceland, got to go inside, but didn't take, there was something about Graceland, it was different from his California homes. Graceland was his sanctuary or something, and you didn't want to intrude on that part of his private life, so that was kind of off limits. But just to even be in Graceland was a thrill. I mean, even now, all these years later, sometimes a smell will hit me and it will remind me of Graceland for some reason. It seems so larger than life. The atmosphere at Graceland was totally different than it was at the California homes. California was kind of relaxed bachelor pad feeling, everybody casual, slouching around. It might have been just us too. Graceland was surreal. He took us and gave us a short tour of the downstairs of the house. I never got to go upstairs or anything. Elvis would come into town 3 or 4 days before his engagement here in Vegas when he was performing. And he'd come in and just rehearse whatever. And one night, we had gone up to the suite, and over the course of several hours, everybody had started to leave the suite. And we were down to maybe 3 or 4 people. And one of the guys, probably one of the last guys left in the room, had gone into Elvis's bedroom to tell him, you know, that he was going also. He came back out and he looked at me and he goes, you know, go in there. And kind of went like that towards Elvis's room, like, yeah, okay, that'll work. So I went into the room and he was standing out by the window, looking out over the city and all the lights and everything. He's just standing there, looking, not saying anything, didn't even acknowledge that I'd walked into the room, just staring. And I walked over and stood next to him, and he kind of put his arm around me, and he goes, you see all that? I'm like, yeah. You know, I could buy anything I want out there, but I can't buy what I need. And I said, well, what do you want? And he kind of laughed. He goes, oh, world peace. And I'm like, no, seriously, you know, what do you want? And he goes, peace in my heart. He goes, I wish I could feel peaceful. And he goes, and you can't buy that. Whenever you left his house, I always made it a point to sometimes even walk you to the door, but always give you a hug goodbye, kiss goodbye, you know, see you soon. Always that personal touch. He looked good. I'm talking about, he had a sparkle in his eye, he was in a good mood, and I remember that, and I'm glad I'm left with that, because we didn't know that he was going to be gone very soon after that. He made everybody think, or made everybody feel, that they were close to him, that they were his best friend. He just made you feel that way. He made you feel special. Even if it was, you only met him one time, you would walk away and say, no, you know what, he liked me. Even though you might never ever see him again, but he had that ability to make you feel special, no matter who you were, no matter where you were. He looked at you, and as far as you're concerned, you were it for that second. And I think that takes a very special person to make that kind of an impact on everybody he met. I'm talking about men, women, it didn't matter. If you were lucky enough to meet Elvis or come in contact with him in any way, he left a mark on you for the rest of your life. What's even more amazing, I think, is he left a mark on people he never met. You didn't have to meet him. You didn't have to know him for him to touch you. He just kind of pierced your heart and just stayed there.
In all the years that I've been in music, my greatest memory has been on stage with Elvis Presley. Very few people ever get to realize their childhood dreams, but I did. I wanted to be on stage with Elvis Presley since I was 9 years old, and I realized my childhood dream. It was an honor, a privilege, and a pleasure to be on stage with this great man, my friend, Elvis Presley.
Thank you very much.
Just once in a lifetime can a man come along and change the world forever by giving us his song. That man became a legend, still adored by countless fans, for the legend proudly stands. Behind the image, there's a man who made him our king, who loved him to sing. It melted our troubles away, but the price that he paid was the image he made, was so hard to live up to each day. Long live the memory of how it all began, for the legend proudly stands. Behind the image, there's a man. It melted our troubles away, but the price that he paid was the image he made, was so hard to live up to each day. Long live the memory of how it all began, for the legend proudly stands. Behind the image, there's a man. Oh, the legend proudly stands, oh Lord. Behind the image, there's a man.
lot of people think that there were all these wild parties that went on at Elvis's homes. One night, Elvis was in his bedroom. He looked at me and he goes, "Go in there." Put his arm around me. And I said, "Well, what do you want?" You want to hear what he said?
You didn't even have to see Elvis walk in the room to feel that he was in the room.
I was stunned by the charisma. It was my first intimate relationship with a man, and